Hey,
Hey, what's going on?
not much. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Pretty good, thanks. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear you great.
Okay.
I guess to start off, tell people about yourself that they're not familiar with and just introduce yourself.
Sure, no problem. So my name is Erin Marra. I am a Western New York born and raised native. I have about 15 years in hospitality, entertainment, and gaming experience. And all of my roles have been customer facing, guest services, high level sales, and just kind of the overall guest experience. I lost my role in April. I was the assistant general manager over at Canalside Outer Harbor, and I've been since looking for what's next.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, kind of going into that, how has this changed your perspective on, the entertainment industry, the hospitality industry? Obviously, you have a ton of experience within that industry. So, what's your outlook within that career path? And have you thought about changing industries or changing the direction that you want to go?
Absolutely. So what's so interesting about what I've done for the past 15 years is that those industries no longer exist as we know them. Sports, entertainment, gaming, hotels, especially tourism levels. Those are the areas that are so important to our local economy and our national economy, but the landscape of them, we don't know what's going to happen. We're hopeful. I'm hopeful that people can start traveling again and that sports can resume, with fans in the stands and being able to cheer them on. But it's one of those areas that hope doesn't pay the bills. So you have to, at times, like I'm dealing with, um, figure out what the next step is. And I've definitely looked into transitioning out of that event world and out of that customer facing guest experience world and looking at something a little more of a stable corporation that maybe has a longer shelf life or something that I can transition into right now and use the skill sets that I've built over the past 15 years and put them to play in a more corporate setting.
Yeah.
Definitely been interesting, and it's been a learning experience that a lot of people will look at hospitality and entertainment and gaming and those that run those areas and think, oh, it's just a fun job. They don't work that hard. When in reality, we are some of the hardest and most loyal workers in the workforce. If you want a killer salesperson or a really great customer advocate, you hire from hospitality.
Oh, I'm sure. And just being service oriented, my thought has always been, if you want a good salesperson, hire from someone who's worked in a serving position in a restaurant or has worked in the hospitality industry, because you're not going to get a person who's more patient, more service oriented than someone who's worked in a position like that. So
Exactly.
have you currently been coordinating with any companies or corresponding with anyone that has given you any good opportunities, or how do you see yourself fitting in your next role?
I've had some wonderful conversations. The Buffalo network is it's so big, but it's so small. So everyone's willing to help, which I love.
Yeah.
And I've had some great conversations with people that don't have opportunities for a position for me, but I'm happy to sit down and kind of share my experience and share some insight. And they've done the same in my case, where they're suggesting companies I look at, or they're suggesting tweaks to my resume and different language areas to change to make my resume a little bit more broad and to
Hmm.
cover more general areas, because hospitality, like every other industry, has its own language. So
Hmm.
it's learning how to transition that. I've been lucky to say that I've had about 15 interviews in the past 5 months, but unfortunately no offers yet.
Okay. I mean, I know the feeling, because I've been in the same position since February, and kind of going back to why I reached out to you initially is because I seen you being so active on LinkedIn and being so helpful to people who may be in need of resume reviews, or just to connect with someone to be able to get feedback on what they're doing. And if you can, talk to me a little bit about that, and if you had anyone who actually has been reaching out to you directly for help, because I know just from my experience, I've thought about it multiple times, but it's been kind of like a two-way street where I've been hesitant just from a pride standpoint. And I think I got this. I think I know what I'm doing. But then you look at someone like yourself with your level of expertise, and there's times where I was like, no, I should have reached out. I should have reached out. So talk to me a little bit about that, and if you have had people reaching out, and for those who have been thinking about reaching out, what would you say to those people?
Absolutely. So my mantra always is, how can I help? It's part of my DNA. I've done hospitality and service roles my entire career, even when I was in high school. So it's a natural thing for me. I want to help. Even though I'm not in a position right now where I have, a role and I'm working full time, I know that there are so many others that are in the same spot. So my natural way of life is, how can I help you? And there's been things, people have reached out, which I love, because again, it makes me feel needed. It makes me feel like useful. And they've reached out for everything from, just a sounding board. Some people are just, they want to talk through an idea. They want to talk through a marketing plan or something, or resume help, some help with some of my hospitality friends that are looking to transition to corporate in a more corporate world. And they say, how can I find those transferable skills and put that on my resume? So things along those lines have been what I've been able to do lately with some people, but it's been pretty quiet. Not a lot of people are reaching out. And I think, to your point, mentioning it's kind of maybe a pride thing or something along those lines. I think it's really just, we're all in this together. We really are. Buffalo is that network. It's who you know. And I might not know someone, but I might know someone who knows someone that can help you. And
Yep.
this is how we bring the economy back. This is how we bring Buffalo back to that great trajectory that we were already on when COVID-19 hit us. So the only way to get further is to go together. And that's always my thought. It's just, the worst that can happen is that someone doesn't respond. I check my email and my LinkedIn so often that I'm here, I'm willing to help. Let's do it together.
I agree. I agree 100%. But going back to it, I was one of the people who didn't reach out to you, even though I was like full out like, okay, I should probably reach out to her under this circumstance. And that's really why I wanted to connect with you right now, because, over the past the course of the past year, I'd like to know how this has impacted your personal confidence and maybe your outlook on what you're going to do in your career in comparison to maybe a year ago.
Definitely. I definitely went through that grieving stage. It's like a relationship with anything else. It's your relationship with your job. It's your relationship with, the future that you thought you were going to have. You have to give yourself a moment and be kind to yourself. And I had to do that. I had to really sit back and say, all those cliches, everything happens for a reason, all of those, but it's something that you have to accept it, and you have to find the good in it, and you have to be able to move forward, because otherwise you kind of just get stuck in this pattern where, it's easy to get down in the dumps. Today is kind of a cold, gray, like gloomy day. It's easy to sit on the couch and woe is me and, watch some reality TV and lose yourself. But it's okay. Like, you can do that once in a while. Just don't unpack and live there. It's about finding a way to pull yourself back up, acknowledge the worth that you have, knowing all of your capabilities, all of the experience. Sometimes I sit back and I'm like, I had a cool career. Like, I've done some really interesting, fun things, and don't discount that. And it's helped propel me forward. It's helped me offer help to others and to really stay on track. But at the same time, I definitely have days where I struggle. I struggle to sit down at my dining room table and look for a job because I'm exhausted and it's tedious. But those are the days where I'll take a break and I'll go to the beach, or I'll go play around a golf, or I'll do something that I love to do, so that you don't feel like this job search takes over your life. You still have to find a way to enjoy it, but Yes, I definitely went through a little bit of a struggle, especially in the beginning. And then then you kind of sit back and you're like, okay, if all of this time, what can I do? What do I like to do? Where do I want to be? Who do I want to be with? And you sort of reevaluate your life.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I know I went through that same exact period, especially
Mhm.
during the job search. Even if you have companies that you're looking to work for, look if you have companies that you're really looking to work for, and you may not get that offer or that position, or they may not think you're qualified. Uh, I know for me, it took a huge toll on my personal confidence. It helped me really reevaluate a lot of different things as
Mhm.
far as what direction I want to go to. But you're exactly right, where you have to take that break and kind of step away, but not step away to the point where you're just soaking in your own miserable filth for
Right.
weeks on end.
Yeah.
Um, so making that transition, doing those things have been the toughest thing for me personally, and then reevaluating my personal like career choices. And there's been things that have come out of this that have been a blessing in disguise. And that's kind of also what I wanted to talk to you about is if there's been anything that's come out of this situation, what do you think the best thing that has come out of it for you?
For me, so this has been the first summer in 20 years that I'm not working. So it's been wild. And I don't just mean like a 40-hour work week, in the summertime. I mean a 60, 70-hour work week in the summertime in certain roles that I've held. And that's what happens when you work somewhere that's open 365 days, like a casino and like
Mhm.
a hotel. Or you do large scale events like at Canal Side, where you've got, large groups of people coming in for concerts and things. And we're responsible for those. And this is the first time, and I sat back and I was like, what do people do in the summer? And I felt so silly, kind of not knowing what to do with my time. And I'm like, this is wild. But it's my normal was just hustling and working. And that's what I do. And that's where I get my energy. So the blessing in disguise for me has been the time. It really has. It's been, my family's in the area. My parents are retired and they live up in Lewiston. So it's been wonderful to spend time with them and just to go golfing with my dad, which I've never been able to do because
Yeah.
I work so much. And to spend time with my nephews, and once baseball started back up, go to their baseball games and really take that family time. And I think it's so important to also be able to take time for yourself. You can, if it's a warm day, you can find me on a beach in Western New York more often than not. But it's something that it would be like a treat last year to carve out a couple hours. And now I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to the beach tomorrow. It's going to be 85. And I can do that. And I have the freedom to do it. And I think
Yeah.
it's been a blessing. It's slowed me down.
Hmm.
As those that know me know I run 100 miles an hour. It's really slowed me down and it's made me really be present and really start to enjoy kind of the day to day. It's life goes by so fast. You have to stop and look around once in a while and have fun.
I agree.
Yeah.
And especially being in sales and marketing or a position like that, I would say your character makeup is going 100 miles an hour. So to have, if you think of your life as like a pie, you're not, that pie isn't just filled with just work. You
Right.
have now your social life, you have your personal life, you have personal relationships and personal connections that you're beginning to mend and reconnect with. And
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the time that I took, it has been, I could relate 100% to that.
Right.
So, kind of going back to what you're doing right now, is there anything that you would say? I know we touched on it a little bit, but that you can offer to people who are in positions like yourself? Or what is it that you could do to help out our personal network or people who are looking for help during these circumstances?
One of the biggest areas that I love to help in is that if someone's looking for a role, sometimes you just need to talk it out. So I'm here to chat with anyone who might not know what their next step is, who might be able to say, I've done X, Y, and Z, but it's time for a career move, but I don't know how that transitions into something else. I've been lucky enough to have a lot of experience with hiring and resumes and all sorts of things in all of my roles. Let me sit down with you virtually, in person, however, and kind of talk through, what are your goals? What do you want to do? What's your passion? It comes down to passion, really. What lights you up? I talk about sales and customer service and I get really excited. That's my area. For some people, it's numbers and data, and for others, it's strategic business planning. Whatever it is, let's identify that, because sometimes you're so focused on yourself that you might not realize the energy that you put out when you talk about certain things. That
Mhm.
It could really be helpful for someone from the outside to look at you and say, I see you light up when you talk about this. What experience do you have there? How can we make that your new career focus or transition your resume? So that's definitely something that I'd love to do and be able to help people with. Another area that I've recently started helping a young business owner with is sales templates, because she has a young team who's never really done sales. So it's kind of a fill in the blank, sort of a simple sales template I've used at the Marriott, used in other locations, that can take the ease out of cold calling, take the ease out of those sales experiences. So
Yep.
use me for my knowledge. Let's put my knowledge, put my power for good. And it's all the experience that I have. I'm happy to share it with anyone about anything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I couldn't agree with you more in regards to those sales templates or just sales guidance in general. There's a lot of people who just don't have the fundamentals or the basics down, which they could use someone else as a resource. So thank you so much, Erin. Did you have any questions for me or anything that you want to touch base on?
So I'd love to ask you, you're going through a similar situation as I am, how are you holding up with all of this? Like, how are you right now versus in February? Where's your mindset?
I would say in February, it was an interesting transition because I was looking to make a career move at that point too. Um, the irony is I was still looking to make the career move into the same industry, which I landed a job. It just took me about 7 months to do it. But during that time period, it was a really difficult transition because there were so many thoughts that ran through my head transitioning from like the construction industry into information technology, that I was rejected more times from so many companies than I was accustomed to, even in sales.
Right.
So at that point, you begin to reevaluate, okay, what is the correct career move for me at this point? And going back to what you're saying, where's your passion? Where does your passion lie? And I can't emphasize enough to really look into what it is that you want to do for your goals, as far as the career move, and stay persistent on that. Like, I followed up with the person that gave me this opportunity probably over 20 times throughout this period. So it was an interesting period, an interesting transition, but there's going to be a lot of times where you need help from others. And I did reach out to multiple people in terms of, is this the right, you almost need a positive reinforcement, like, you know what, you are on the right path. Maybe it is, just stay persistent with it and continue with it. Or there will be people who tell you, you know what, you should try this instead. If you want to get to, this endpoint, try starting off here, and then you could pivot and then go here, and then it'll lead you to your right destination. But just getting feedback from other people, and that's why I kind of wish I reached out to you earlier during that time period, because I think it would have made the transition a lot easier. It's just the confidence factor. It's a pride factor where it's like, I don't want to tell you, like, it takes a lot of self-confidence, I feel like, to tell someone, like, hey, I'm still unemployed. Like, I was a successful sales rep, but for some reason it's 6 months later and I'm still unemployed. Yes. And it's really hard to do that, I think, for a lot of people, including myself. But if you do that, you have all that vulnerability. You're making yourself so vulnerable to the rest of your network that you're not afraid to hide anything. I feel like people look at, like, I view you, and I'm like, you know what, Erin knows what, like, she's just looking to help people in this time, and I need help, but I'm not even willing to reach out to you for it. So,
Right.
you know, I can't stress enough for like anyone who does feel like they want help or they need help,
Mhm.
like reach out to you. I'll put all your information in terms of
Okay.
like when I post this, because you're exactly right. We all need each other. Buffalo is a, you know, you have a wide network, but it's also a very close knit network where it's
Mhm.
everyone knows each other from a second or third party connection.
Right.
So, you know, that. I hope that answered your question or gave you an idea where I'm coming from in a sense.
It did. It did. And it's something that, we're in sales, so it's normal for us to do cold calls
Mhm.
and to walk up to a stranger and start a conversation. That's natural to a point. But yes, when it comes to actually talking about yourself and being vulnerable, it does take a lot. It really does. And with everything else, I just say, shoot your shot. Shoot your shot. It's don't make me quote Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott, but I will. But it's one of those things that the worst that happens is no. And the worst that happens is, you feel uncomfortable about it, but it's good to be uncomfortable. Like that's where you grow. That's where you develop new skills. And it's something that I've been doing this for a really long time in industries and just cold calling and everything. For me, I joke that it builds character, but it does. It's just something that over time it becomes less uncomfortable because you just start to say, you know what, I can't do this alone, and that's okay. And there's no shame in that game. So shoot your shot, reach out to whomever you want. If there's a dream job out there and you have a contact in the company, send them an email. I did that, and I had an interview, and the company, we went in a different direction, but he even said, you did what I want salespeople to do, is you just found me and reached out to me in a cold email, and now we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
Take your chance, shoot your shot.
Couldn't agree with you more. That's great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Erin.
Thank you.
Connect relatively soon, maybe in person next time.
Yes. Yeah,
Once
that'd be great.
it settles down. So I'll look for, once I post this, I'll give you the information, and I'll look forward to hearing from you soon.
Okay, sounds great. Have a good day. Talk to
You
you soon.
too. Sounds good. I'll see you.
Okay, bye.